Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Monkey Wrench. I'm Kelly, the monkey with the wrench. Today we're starting a new project series. This is going to be across, I'm sure 4 or 5 videos, and they're not going to come out real quick. I've got, plenty of machines in the shop that I've got to work on for customers, things that have to get fixed so I can get them sold. But this was a project that just kind of snuck up on me yesterday. So let me tell you what I know about it. It's a total pig. It is a Craftsman ZTS 6000. It's a 42-inch deck. I'm sorry, a 52-inch deck. 5.2. 52-inch deck. Craftsman zero turn. Now, Craftsman is the same as John Deere, is the same as Arians. They're all basically the same. They're just big box store. This one I like because it actually has a cast iron independent front wheel. But anyway, I have a new friend. His name is Carlitos. So, gracias, Carlitos. He messaged me yesterday. He said he watches my videos, and he's got a zero turn that he'll sell me real cheap. And basically, I let him know I'm always interested in stuff. What do you got? And he was real secretive about it. He didn't want to tell me anything up front. He didn't want to tell me how much or anything. So he just kept, jokingly saying, I'll sell it to you real cheap. So I got a hold of a buddy of mine, Jim, he's got his trailer and he does all the pickups and deliveries for me for customers and whatnot. And I said, Jim, this guy lives about 30 miles away over in such and such a town. And he said, oh yeah, I go over there all the time. I'm going over there today or tomorrow. And I said, well, look, this cat wants to sell me a zero turn. And he says, even a homeless man can afford it. So, I'm kind of curious. So the long and the short of it was, Jim picked me up yesterday because we had to do a couple of pickups and deliveries, customer stuff. And Jim was buying a tractor from a customer of mine. So he said, look, man, let's just run over there. It's Saturday afternoon, we got time. So we rode over there, and I met with Carlitos for the first time. Really cool dude. Mexican, doesn't speak a lot of English, but really cool dude. And he says, I have the zero turn here, and if you will do a couple of videos on it, I'll sell it to you for $1. And I thought he was joking. Had to make sure. For $1. I'll give it to you for $1. I said, well, the tires are worth $1. The deck is in good shape. It's not all rusted out. I didn't do anything with this. We happened to have the trailer because we had just done a delivery. We had a come along. One tire was flat, but they're brand new. So we pumped it up, and we used the come along to get this thing up on the trailer, and we shuffled her on back home. Now, I haven't touched it. I literally just now pulled that top cover off because it was unbolted, and this is the bracket that goes above the engine that the seat rests on. I haven't done anything to it. I don't know if the motor spins. I don't know anything about it. But he said that, and judging by his new house, he has a lawn that's maybe the size of the space between that truck and that tree. That's his whole lawn. He moved into a new house and he doesn't need it. But he said that he used it and he loved it for his other house, but that there was something wrong with the starter. He said there was a tooth missing or something was broken, and he doesn't know anything else about it. And I said, well, listen, I appreciate the fact that you watch my videos. I do, Carlitos. Thank you for that. And I appreciate the project. You know, to the untrained eye, somebody watching this and going, wow, 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 that's a mess. It's really not. He's got a lot of stuff unbolted, and I'm not sure why. The fuel tank is not bolted down. This back fairing is off. He said, I asked him about an oil leak. He said that at some point he had a quart of oil or something sitting there and it spilled over, and that's why there's oil on the thing. But who knows? Now this thing has a 26 horsepower Briggs on it. 26 horse Briggs, which is nice. Okay, I like the Briggs engines. A lot of people don't. Briggs is my favorite, my preferred engine. And I got a buddy that runs a junkyard for lawnmowers. Excuse me, hang on. So, even if the motor is shot, I can get a motor for it for $100. And then we'll make a video on how we put a new motor on a zero turn. Now, this is just a homeowner's model, but I did take a look at the frame. There's no damage to the frame whatsoever. Like I said, the tires are new. Now, the axles, I guess when they put the new tires on, they didn't have the correct axles, so they just used a bolt and put it through. And they're a bit wobbly. One's worse than the other. But, you know, axles, no big deal. $5 or $10 at the local hardware store, the local parts store. It's got a few dents right here on the front, but we can knock those out. And the major thing, obviously he had some kind of electrical issue, because he said, this is the on-off switch, and this is one of those 99-cent, looks like an extension cord, or maybe a cord off of a lamp. He cut it off and used the wire. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Everything on here is 12 volt. So lamp cord's just fine. But this is the panel, obviously. Throttle, on, off, and PTO. And that's just water coming out of the seat. He had it under a tarp, but, you know, water gets in it. Even the seat's in great shape. So anyway, he just said it had trouble. It was missing a gear or something. And I didn't even look at it. I have yet to spin this thing to see if it's locked up, see anything. Because for me, like I said, I can get an engine for $100 that might need a carburetor or something, and swap a couple of pulleys, show you guys how to swap motors on these things. I do this all the time. This is my job. So when I'm not rebuilding, I picked those up yesterday also. These were thrown away, believe it or not. They were out for garbage. One is a steel, one is an Echo. The Echo runs. I had it running. I didn't do anything to it. And this one was out of gas. I haven't tried messing with it yet. But that's the kind of stuff they throw away in Florida. So I'll be working on those later. Probably tomorrow or the next day. But I cut grass a couple of days a week. And I use a 22-inch self-propelled push mower. And I'm sick of using a push mower. So this is something that I'm going to be using for myself. And I have talked for 9 minutes already. So I just want you guys to know that I'm going to be making a video series on this. We're going to put a tube in this tire. The other one seems to be holding air, and the two front ones are brand new, and I can tell you right now, they're about $70 a set. So I can't lose. Thank you, Carlitos. I have no idea if there's anything wrong with the pumps, but the good thing about these zero turns is, especially the homeowner models, most people buy them. They're about $3,500 at the store. No big deal. That one's probably more like $4,000 because it has the larger deck. But they use them to cut their own lawn. Maybe a friend's lawn. Like my lawn is not that big. I'm going to show you the back part where she keeps her dogs and whatnot. But the lawn here is not that big. All right. And it takes me, with a zero turn, even that Skag 32, which is a customer of mine, And, you know, to cut this lawn with a zero takes about 7 or 8 minutes. So the average person that buys these uses them, and what ends up happening is a carburetor gets dirty, thing won't run, starter goes bad. Obviously, there's some kind of electrical issue, and they might have blown a fuse. They tried to rewire a kill switch. They tried to mess with the key. The key start I see right now has a bunch of electrical tape on it. So my guess is that something happened with the key situation and they couldn't figure it out, and they don't want to go chasing lines. So they put in a kill switch and kind of rigged it. And then when that stopped working, they could have burned up the starter. There could be a solenoid. Usually it's a problem that takes, you know, a few hours of your time, and 20 bucks, 30 bucks, 50 bucks fix the issue. So pumps usually are not a problem. I'll check the oil in this pump, in both of these pumps, and see if it's got any metal shavings or anything in it. But pumps don't normally go bad, which is the wonderful thing about these zeros. So I don't think I'm going to have any issues with the transmission or the pumps. I figure that with the problems that they had with the electrical system, with the key, you know, with the key start going bad and them trying to wire the kill switch in, he just went, you know what, I'm just going to sit it. So you're going to watch me here for the first time. I'm actually going to spin the engine and see if it's locked up. But this is going to be a series of videos. I'm not going to wrench on this thing today. But I did also want to say that the only thing that is missing, that is absolutely missing, is, oops, there's a cowling, a big cowling that goes down the side, across the back, covers over the fuel tank. It's nice and wide, and that's what this thing bolts into. Okay, so the cowling's, you know, really wide. It comes out far as the muffler, goes all the way down the back, across the back, and then back up the other side. And that is missing for whatever reason. You can see that it bolted on here. That's what this red plastic is. I don't know. Maybe somebody tried standing on it and didn't realize it was just plastic and busted it. I have no idea. I asked him about it because I messaged him today and said, hey, by the way, do you have the big cowling that goes around it with the cup holder and all that stuff? And he said that broke a long time ago and he threw it away. Now there's another buddy of mine that runs a junkyard. We actually stopped by there today. He wasn't in, but I've got a message into him to see if we can find a cowling that will fit across there and work. But this is going to be my machine. So that might be a month or two down the road by the time I track one down. And I will definitely buy it if I can find one used. So if you have one used, send me a message in the comments. But these things are so basic. You got a motor with some pulleys. You got pulley belts that go to the deck. You've got your transmission hooked up to your pumps. That's it. I mean, it's real simple. You'll see that as we go through it. But for the most part, everything else looks like it's there. That does help some with airflow. You see this part here. I got to take that off before it gets broken. But that sits down and the cowling is back here. So we'll see. Maybe John Deere has one that'll fit. You know, maybe Troy Built has one that'll fit. We'll see if we can track one down, even if we got to paint it. But that's kind of the least of my problems, or the least of my worries. Everything else seems okay, and I'm not worried about the pumps. Electrical stuff on this is always a pain in the butt to chase down, but we're going to see what we can find out about it. I've got a fresh battery there that I'm going to hook up here in a minute, but what I'm going to show you guys is what I don't even know myself before I end this thing. I'm going to see if this thing's frozen. What do you think? I don't know. I didn't touch it. I know they did some electrical stuff up there, and then said there was a problem with the starter. Like I said, he speaks broken English. And I don't see any missing teeth on the flywheel. And I don't see any missing teeth on the starter itself either. So it could be a relay, it could be the solenoid, it could be whatever they did up there causing that not to start. It might be okay. I'm going to say 75% chance that it's not locked up, that it's free. And 50-50 that it's got some compression. But I think we're probably going to be all right. So let's let's spin it and see. Oh, look at that. I hear a little squealing from down below, but I can even hear the compression. That's great. That means the compression release valve inside is working. It's got good compression. Yeah, buddy. The squealing, if you can hear it, chances are it's a pulley down below. We'll get into that later. There is one bolt in the fuel tank. I'll take that off because I'm gonna put new fuel lines and stuff on it. All that stuff's cheap. Well, this thing also has an electric deck. It's a push button to raise and lower the deck. I don't know if anything works. So I'm going to pause you. I'm going to hook a battery up and hit the key and see if anything happens. This video is not going to be too much longer, but let's see. Okay, all I did was hook up a battery. I haven't done anything to it. Now there is a safety switch for the seat. The seat has to be down, but that's obviously not pushing that switch. I can see that switch right there. That has to be down, so I'm gonna have to jam that with something. See this lever right here pushes that. Is that the safety for the seat? No, that's a parking brake. Okay, so let's lock that in place. See if that's done. Okay, now that switch is depressed. So there is a safety switch on the seat right there, but I don't know if it's normally open or normally closed. Let's just see if we hear anything. Well, we hear something. Okay. That's for starters. When I hit the key, the starter spins, but it's not kicking up. It's either not kicking up into the flywheel or it's worn down and it's just spinning, but it looks to me like it's not kicking up into the flywheel. Let me see if I hit it again, if it's going high enough. Oh, okay. The flywheel looks like it's possibly stepped. Like the lower half of the flywheel is small and the upper half of the flywheel is sticking out more. Is it all the way around? Okay. Okay, we can work with that. I feel a spot on this side where it's the same depth from top to bottom, but then right up here it's not. Right up here it's not. Around here it's not. It's real worn in. So my guess, this is going as high as it can go. Oh, and it's plastic too. Okay, it feels like it's plastic. So it looks like the teeth on the starter are worn out, and possibly for some reason, somehow it wore the teeth on this flywheel. I wish I could show it to you, but I'm probably going to have to pull the flywheel because over here, it doesn't do that. Over here, it's the same top to bottom for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 10 teeth. And then it goes right back to where the bottom portion is missing. So, okay, that's actually not a horrible thing to have to deal with. The most horrible thing about that is that I literally had a bunch of motors from Zeros that have been sitting back there for a few months, and I let Jim come take them this weekend and take them to the scrap yard. I give him free scrap, about $100 worth every couple of months, and he does me favors along the way, as well as I pay him to do deliveries and whatnot. I just give him that stuff as a bonus. Yeah, that's a strange one, Mr. Grinch. Let's see if possibly, wiggle alert, if I can get you in there to show you what I mean. You see how the top of the tooth stops about halfway down and then it goes back? You see how off that is? It's not supposed to be that way. And it's off different amounts along the way. And the starter, if I can get my finger in the right spot, the starter looks like the teeth on this are worn pretty good. Like it's been getting up there and spinning, and the two have just been wearing the crap out of each other. Now that's not something that happened overnight, okay? So that actually gives me some hope, because to wear that cast iron flywheel that much, that didn't happen in one use. The starter only engages momentarily for the machine to start. So if the flywheel started wearing down and then the teeth of the starter was hitting the flywheel and they were kind of wearing each other, it probably happened over the course of maybe a whole summer. I see that the fuel tank on this is they tried to put something on there to make that. But it's at the top, so who cares? It's holding fuel. It's about halfway full of fuel. But anyway, I believe that's our culprit. Well, I know it is, because the starter is attempting to engage and the flywheel ain't having it because it's all worn down. So that's our first problem. Now, I come across starters all the time. In fact, I just gave Jim 2 or 3 of them to take to the scrapyard. And now I wish I'd have kept them. But I'll come across more in the next week or two, I'm sure. And that's one for a different kind of Zero. I might even have another 1 or 2 laying around. If not, I'll get with Jim. We'll find one. The reason being is I can pull that upper gear off of that starter. That's easy. There's a retaining clip right there. You take that off. You take this upper plate off. Then there's a spring. And then this gear just winds off. So I can get a new starter. That starter seems to be okay. The flywheel I can get from one of the junkyards. Cheap. But before I go to that trouble, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cover off here. It looks like it still has 2 bolts in it, so they wouldn't lose it. I'm going to take that off, and under there is her nuts. Let's just move that out of the way. This big nut, this is an 11/64 usually. And I'm going to take a big drill, a corded drill, because you got to have a big drill. 3/8 drill, regular size won't work, and cordless will not work. You need a 1/2 inch to a 3/4 inch drill with that pulls some power, and that usually has another handle on the front of it. Anyway, you put a socket on there and you spin it clockwise. Don't do this unless you have a reversible socket that will spin with it once it starts. But I can put a socket on there and a drill and spin that motor. I can shoot a little bit of go-go juice down her throat and see if she'll sing for me before I spend any money. So that's going to be the next thing I do. And I don't have my drill here now, so it's probably going to be tomorrow. It's already 7 o'clock on Sunday night. So we're going to see in the next video if she will bark. And I think she will. I think that's our culprit. I think that it's probably having trouble starting. Once those two started wearing against each other. But if he kept hitting the key, he would find a good tooth, and it would be enough to start it. He cut his grass, and then it just got to what he thought was more of an intermittent problem until there was no teeth left to grab. In fact, just for shits and giggles, let me find that spot where those teeth are not worn. There's 10 or 12 teeth left. There they are. And put those right at the starter. Which way does the starter turn? Haha, see? Now, I put those last 10 or 12 right there where the starter will actually be able to hit a whole tooth. See what happens? What did I do, Chief? There we go. What just happened? Well, just now you saw it. That jumped up and hit those last couple of teeth and actually turned that. What did I do? Maybe there's some wires loose. That was working. Let me pause it and see what I can figure out. What I wanted to do was just hit it and see if it would turn the motor about 1/4 of a turn before it ran out of teeth. Okay, I hooked it up to the charger just because I have had trouble with that battery. And I brought out my little test light. It's just hooked to the negative side of the battery. This is our solenoid. This is the side we're supposed to have power on, and we do. We have constant power there. The key comes down and hits another one, which sends power to connect the switch inside and send power to the other side. We have no power on the other side, except we do have power on the other side. No, that's when I'm hitting that. Okay. So I'm hitting the same lead there. When I hit the other side, when I hit the key, we should be getting power. See? And now we are. So I know the solenoid's good, but all of a sudden the starter does not want to work. So there's nothing else between the starter and the battery, and the solenoid's over here. So if I put power directly from the battery to the post on the starter, it should kick that thing up like it was before, and now it's not even kicking it up, and I'm not sure why. That's, well, let's see if I'm getting power down here. It's kind of rusted. I don't mind buying a new starter. That's the least of my problems. Yeah, I'm not getting power. I wish this gas... Wish granted. That's the power line. It comes from this side of the solenoid where I'm getting power. Runs down here, and all it does, that's the end of the same wire. So we got a bad connection here. Okay, that's what's going on. We got a bad connection because, see, when I hit it, it lights up, and obviously it's making the starter go. We got a rusty connection on here. So that's good. The starter's still good. And as you saw, it did turn the flywheel when it was on the teeth that aren't all knocked off. See? Oh, and we just knocked the new one off. So every time this thing stopped and there wasn't a tooth there for it to grab and it caught the next one, it ripped it off. See how it turned that until it ran out of teeth? So we got to replace the flywheel. That's easy. Even if you don't run a shop and you don't have people in your town that do junkyard style for mowers, you can find them on eBay, I'm sure. You'll have to look up your particular motor and you can buy one. I'm sure that I will be able to get one here very, very shortly. And as soon as I take that starter off, clean that post, where's my finger? Clean that post, fix the fitting that's on that wire, and put it back together, our starter's good. And like I said, I will have to get a new gear for the top, which I'll pull off another starter. And if you're concerned about it, you're curious, when you have your starter, if you just want to swap the gear, just count as how many teeth are on there. I believe that's 14 teeth, and you'll know that it's the same one. Some have 12, some have 10, some have 9. So when you're picking a gear from another starter, just count the teeth. So we're going to have to get a new gear for the starter, fix the post, clean it, and get a new flywheel. That's to make this thing right. And like I said, before I spend any money, even 20 or 30 bucks, I want to hear this thing bark, and now I feel like she really will, because if that's why he couldn't start it anymore, the engine is probably in good shape, and I'm no longer worried about that. Now, I don't hear anything when I pull on the PTO clutch, but that could be this won't work if the seat's not down. This is our deck up and down, and we're not getting anything out of that. So we're going to have to chase wires and find out what's going on. The kill switch, I just heard a sound over here. But this stuff is halfway off. It's old, it's rusty, and we don't even know if the motor's any good. There's a motor down there, an electric motor that raises and lowers that deck. But that's something that we can work on later. I did move the choke cable, and it's working. It's moving the choke lever, and that's also our throttle cable. And I see that spring is moving, but the lever is not. But this carburetor's got to come off and be cleaned and rebuilt anyway. That's not a big deal. So that's going to end it for this video right now. At least we know we got a good starter, and they're only about 60 or 80 bucks. The gear will be a lot cheaper. And once we get a drill on her, get her to spin, and see if she'll fire off, then we know what to do next. I believe we're going to be good to go. I believe she's going to fire up. And as far as that's concerned, at best, we might be missing... Nope, that goes in there. So we have this. So as far as the engine's concerned, it could, the fuel pump might have gone bad. They go bad. I got boxes of those. We'll set valves, things like that. But I think she's going to fire up. And then we'll start chasing electrical and figure out what needs to be done. The belts are all in good shape. Like I said, new tires. That one we're going to put a tube in. But she's not a total pig as you think. And it's not going to take much to bring her back to life. So here's hoping. See you soon. So we're back. It's the next day. I already started filming part 2 and something happened to the audio. And I'm just going to start over without so much damn talking. So I'm going to tack this on the end of part 1. And you guys get to see sort of a dramatic finish. Don't try this at home. It's dangerous. You could hurt yourself. I am just simply pulled the wires off the bottom of the magneto. There's a spade connector under there. These are your kills. So if your seat's not sit on, if your parking brake safety's not on, if the arms aren't open, Any of the safety switches on here, PTO's on, they all run through the same kill switch on those magnetos. So by taking those wires off, I bypassed it. There's nothing to take away the spark. So what we're going to do, if I can get you somewhere where you can see, we're going to see if this thing will start. I am going to find my fuel. All right, we're recording. I'm going to stick a little bit of fuel down the throat of the carburetor. We're going to spin this motor with a drill. You can't do this with a cordless drill. And if it's a big engine with a lot of horsepower, you're going to need something big. This is a 9 amp drill. If it's got a handle, it's probably strong enough to do what you got to do. Spin it clockwise in this particular motor, and let's see if she'll fire up. So we got us a good motor. That tells me the compression's good, electrics are good, everything's good. Carburetor's going to need to be cleaned, obviously, we already know that. Let's try it one more again. Let's see if she'll roll. Alright, so we got a good motor. Oh, the first time I filmed that was way more climactic. But, alright, so the next step is going to be pull the carburetor, get it on the bench, and see if we can't clean it. I don't want to have to replace it. Those are expensive, but I'll probably have to get a rebuild kit. So it's going to be a couple of days before I pull that. And then we'll get a new flywheel and a new starter gear. The flywheel is 50 bucks, $52. And the gear for the starter, I just looked on Amazon. You get 2 for $6. So we're going to clean the carburetor, change the flywheel, put a new gear on the starter, and then we've got power. We will be able to start this thing and see if we can't keep it running and move on to the next part of this project.